Hi, I'm Dr. Robyn Koslowitz, YouTube's post-traumatic parenting expert. Do you ever worry, will my damage my children? Perhaps recent events in your life have left you depleted, and now you feel like you lack the psychological resources to parent. Or maybe you're worried that since you didn't experience a healthy childhood, you can't provide one for your children. If you've ever had those thoughts, welcome. Please click the subscribe button below and join our post-traumatic parenting community. You're in the right place. What is secure attachment? How do I know if I'm providing it? If I didn't experience good attachment, can I provide it for my children? So many post-traumatic parents have this question. As one mother put it, I hear so many times online, you can't love someone else unless you love yourself. And as someone who experienced in my childhood, as an adult who experienced abuse, I don't love myself. I have a lot of shame. And how can I love my child? Very often we get that message from people who study attachment, from people who teach attachment, that good, proper attachment creates a secure adult who can then provide attachment. So if we didn't have proper attachment, if we're not secure as adults, does that mean our kids are doomed and we can never provide them with good attachment? So there is a flip side to attachment. The flip side of being secure, of having good attachment, is earned security. So let's take a little bit of a step back and understand attachment and attachment theory and understand what earned security can look like. So attachment theory is all about keeping babies alive, right? John Bowlby was the first person to really talk about attachment theory and how it is a drive within children. Prior to Bowlby, there was this psychoanalytic belief that what was actually happening in the child's life did not matter nearly as much as the child's fantasies about what was happening. Bowlby was working with children in a therapeutic nursery, and there was a child who he was working with whose mom, I think, was sent to prison, was sent away. And he went to his supervisor, Melanie Klein, who was a big name in child psychoanalysis, and he said, I believe the boy is pining for his mother. And Melanie Klein laughed at that and said, no, it's his fantasied representations of his mother that matter. And Bowlby was like, no, I'm pretty sure he misses his actual mom. And of course, Bowlby was right, and so much research has been done on attachment theory. Attachment theory means that we have an attachment figure, generally mom, so I'll use mom, but it can be dad, it can be multiple attachment figures for human babies, right? We can attach to grandma, we can attach to a caregiver, we can attach to a teacher at school, but generally it's mom. So we're gonna use mom, and we're not gendering that, right? So when we attach, we're looking for three things. The baby is looking for proximity maintenance. Is this attachment figure close by? Is she around, right? Is she going to be a secure base from which I can go out and explore the world, knowing that she'll be there when I come back? And finally, is she a safe haven when something goes wrong, when the world seems scary, when I fall down and hurt myself, when there's a fire, when there's a loud, scary noise? Will she be there to comfort me, to help me make sense of what just happened, and to make me feel better? If those three functions are met, the child grows up with a sense of security. And unlike animals, humans can, because some animals can, some can't, humans can have more than one attachment figure, provided the attachment figure is predictable, is attentive, is paying attention, is going to react pretty much the same way every time something happens, is not going to be mean and difficult one time and then really nice and nurturing the next time, but I can predict what their reactions will be. and they feel safe and they're going to help me make sense of myself and the world. Then the child grows up and develops what we call an internal working model. The internal working model is how I understand myself and how I understand the world. Do I see the world as a predictable, safe place where generally good things happen and there's so much to do and experience and try out? Or do I see the world as really scary and threatening, right? Some of that has to do with the child's inborn temperament as well, which we'll get into, but a lot of that has to do with how secure was the attachment, how good was the parent at helping the child see the world as safe and predictable because they were safe and predictable. The child also has to develop an internal working model of self. Who am I? Who am I in relationships? Am I someone with normal, natural needs that will be met? Someone who it's enjoyable to spend time with and it's fun to be around, and I want to be around someone else who also is enjoyable to be around with and fun to be around? Or am I whiny, needy, annoying, gross, shameful, right? Who am I? And finally, the child is answering the question of, what are relationships? Are relationships places where you go for solace, support, comfort, help, understanding, learning, right? Are relationships these positive benefits in my life? Or are relationships vehicles for me to be abused and exploited? Are relationships super unpredictable where sometimes they feel really good and safe and sometimes they feel really scary and chaotic? Right? Based on that, the child develops an internal working model of the world. Now, if all of those questions were answered, yes, right, the world is a safe place, my parent is predictable, I am worthy of attention and love, then the child's internal working model is secure, and they have secure attachment, and they're a secure person. And, when we say in the world, like when we're just describing someone, oh, he's such a secure guy, or she's so insecure, we're pulling on attachment theory. Right? So, and if the answer to that question is, well, maybe, right? Maybe the world is a safe place. Maybe mom will come, but maybe she won't, right? Maybe I'm good in relationships, or maybe I'm kind of annoying. Then what we have is insecure attachment. And there's many levels of attachment that we're not going to go into, like passive, avoidant, dismissive. We're not going to go into that right now. And finally, we have the third form of attachment. Is the world a safe place? Definitely not. I am abused. It is scary. It is hostile. Bad stuff happens. Are my relationship figures, my parents, are they safe people who make me feel secure? No. If I cry, my mom comes, but she comes to slap me. She doesn't come to like soothe me and make me feel better. If I fall down on the playground, another kid will come and kick me too. My big sister will, beat me up for embarrassing her, right? When I come home and I cry in the middle of the night, mom comes to yell at me, right? And finally, who am I in relationships? I don't need relationships because like mom, who needs her? Because, right now I have to stick around because I'm 2 and I don't have a lot of options. But like, I don't want mom around. I don't want anybody around. What are relationships? Just ways that people can be mean to you, right? And that would be dismissive, avoidant attachment. And there's a lot, like I said, a lot of forms of attachment that we're not going to go into. So this idea that somehow this template is built within the first 2 years of our life, and then that's our template, I think is a little bit of an oversimplification. Because I certainly know from treating trauma that you can have people who had secure attachment and had pretty stable first 5, 6, 7 years of their life, and then something super traumatic happened when they were 8 years old or 10 years old or 15 or 25. And all of those understanding of the world, of how safe it is, of how I am in relationships, of what relationships are, of self, can completely become unraveled. And that will become earned insecurity, right? And then what we have to do is get back to something called earned security. So if you did not experience good attachment and you're aware of that, and now you're worried, oh my gosh, I didn't experience attachment. So that template was not installed in my brain. I don't have a proper internal working model of attachment. So how can I provide it to my kid? So the flip side of that is earned security. what you need to do, you are correct that it is important to learn how to have secure attachment, to model it for our children. So we earn security through new relationships, right? So perhaps you're in a very loving partnership relationship and your parenting partner is really attentive, reliable, predictable person who will soothe you when you're upset, who does not make you feel like a burden or a weirdo or in some ways a shameful person when you have emotional needs. And you start learning to be more secure because that relationship is giving that to you. That might happen with a boss, right? A really wonderful mentor, a really wonderful teacher. Very often that happens in psychotherapy. Very often that is the goal of psychotherapy, to move from earned insecurity to earned security, to move from insecure attachment from the youngest ages to secure attachment, dismissive, avoidant attachment to secure attachment through the therapy relationship, through looking at that adult person who's in therapy with delight, like, wow, look at what you've achieved. You spoke back to your boss and told him that you deserve a raise. Really proud of you. That's amazing, right? That sense of delight that happens in a securely attached relationship, whereas Kohut would say, the child looks up to the mother and says, you are perfect and I am part of you. And the mother looks at the child and says, what a wonderful child I have, right? That sort of mutual admiration society that's important for attachment you get in therapy. Maybe in therapy, you call your therapist on something. You're like, I feel like you just weren't paying attention to me. And instead of the therapist gaslighting you or saying like, you're so insecure, the therapist is like, yeah, my mind wandered for a minute. You're right. I'm going to pay more attention in the future. And then at the end of the session says, so how was that? Did you feel like I was paying attention to you? What can we do to make it better? And you learn that your needs are not a burden, that to have needs doesn't make you needy, right? And you start developing more secure attachment. Maybe it's about understanding that, wow, this therapist thinks highly of me, so maybe I'm worthy of respect, right? And that, like I said, that can happen in so many life relationships, a friendship, a mentorship situation, a teacher, a therapist, a coach. There are potentials to heal our attachment with these people and learn it. Now, what if you feel like you have insecure attachment, you have dismissive attachment, and you already have a child? It's like, it feels like it's too late. There's absolutely nothing wrong. I'm going to give flip side advice here. People very often say, be yourself. Sometimes in an authentic manner from myself, I'm going to not be myself. I'm going to try to channel someone who I know knows how to do it well. So it's sort of like, think of somebody like Mr. Rogers, who just knew how to attune and attend to children. You know what? I'm going to talk to this child as if I was Mr. Rogers. What would Mr. Rogers say or do, right? I had that wonderful teacher who just always knew that thing to say to encourage me. I'm going to talk to my kid as though I'm that teacher. What would she say in this situation? So sometimes don't be yourself for a while. Don't be inauthentic, right? Don't force it. Don't be don't say or commit to doing something that you wouldn't do if you absolutely hate something. Like your kid wants to play a board game with you and you hate that game. Don't sit there gritting your teeth and then telling the kid how fun it is. You might play the game with the child because you see they want to share it with you, but you don't have to be like, yes, that's my favorite game, let's play it. We don't want to be inauthentic, but we can channel someone who has those skills. One of the big reasons why I have the post-traumatic parenting community and why I model how I read books to children or how I play games with children is because so many of us don't have that template pre-installed. But think about a situation where it's easier to have the template pre-installed. For example, let's say you want to make a purchase on a website and your saved credit card isn't working. So you have to go and find a different credit card and manually enter the number and enter the expiration date and your address and who the card holder is and the, security code. It's a little bit more annoying. It would be so much easier if you could just click buy and you're done. So you have to kind of manually enter the template. But once the template's in, it's in. Right? So that's why it's worth learning this rather than giving up. And so many of us with insecure, with avoidant, with dismissive attachment say, oh, this is too big. I can never do it. Forget it. I just have to earn enough money and get my kids therapy when they're adults. Because it feels like such a big task. At first, it does seem like a big task, but it's like any other skill. Parenting is not an instinct, right? That's a myth. Parenting's a skill. We can always learn a skill. Earned security is a skill. It's the skill of seeing the world differently than the way the world was taught to me as a child, than the way trauma taught me to view the world. That's a skill. We can always learn skills, no matter how old your kids are. I don't care if they're 5. I don't care if they're 5 months. I don't care if they're 15. I don't care if they're 25. I don't care if they're 55. We can always learn attachment and learn how to provide it and learn how to repair it, because earned security is every bit as good and healthy and reparative as the kind that comes pre-installed. You owe this not only to your children, because great, we can provide our kids with security and give them earned security. Maybe you didn't provide them with the secure attachment during the first 5-6 years of their life, and now you're going to do it. They're going to develop earned security now. Earned security is no less valid and no less valuable than any other form of security. And in some ways, it's more precious because we have to work hard to earn it. This absolutely can be done. If you want to join the post-traumatic parenting community and ask direct questions about these topics, please click subscribe below and check out the Post-Traumatic Parenting Podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on Instagram, which is where the post-traumatic parenting community hangs out. We have a subscription, so if you want to be able to ask direct questions or comment and interact more directly, that's definitely where we are interacting with each other. And of course, I'd love to read your comments below. So please like, save, share, and subscribe. Thank you. Till next time.